Twice the terror.
Happy holidays and welcome to Twice the Terror. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kat.
And we sure ain't the Pillsbury fucking Doughboy.
Doughboy. When I tell you, okay. So tonight, for those of you who don't know, you lucky bastards, we're reviewing Gingerdead Man. This is a 2005 smash hit film that I'm pretty sure...
A smash hit? Really?
I'm pretty sure that they were trying to film something entirely different and that Gary Busey just wandered on the set and took it over. And now they're writing the script as they're filming to make sense out of everything Gary's doing.
I have a few notes on certain things. This is actually a movie that is surprisingly hard to find details about, which makes sense. It's Full Moon Features. Oh, and by the way, for anybody who doesn't know what this show is, if you've just stumbled in, because I know there have been some really popular podcasts, we hit this weird time where podcasts have started talking about Gingerdead Man. Have you seen this phenomenon?
No.
Okay, I'll get to it. But for anyone who doesn't know our show, Twice the Terror, the way that it works typically is Kat and I bring in a topic, and each episode we kind of just bounce back and forth discussing whatever we want on the topic. Sometimes we each bring in our own stories. Sometimes it's something paranormal related. Sometimes it's movie related. It's always horror themed, weird themed, all that sort of, crazy nonsense that we love so much. That's basically the podcast. So if this is your first time, welcome. If you are a returning listener, be prepared for some amazing Gingerdead Man talk. But so what happened before we get into the movie and what this is, I've noticed this uptick in YouTube videos and stuff talking about this movie actually exists. And I think I can trace it all the way back to the podcast Distractable, because it's Mark Blair and his friends Bob and Wade and stuff, and they do this podcast, and they did an episode around Halloween where they did this thing called King of Horror Hill, where they were kind of teaming or fighting villains against each other, right? And they had one where it was your pick, you pick whatever. And so to just throw the thing into complete and utter chaos, Bob picked the Gingerdead Man, which they all knew nothing about, but he just Googled it and was the Gingerdead Man. And so it spiraled the entire episode. It was pretty funny.
And they're just this movie's real. I'm I've seen this movie so many times.
And if you look at the, those Google charts that show you popularity of searches. If you look by the time their episode was released for the Google search of Gingerdead Man, it shoots up in the air, and suddenly everybody's wondering what the hell Gingerdead Man is. And we've had this planned in case anybody's they're jumping on the bandwagon. We've had this planned
since September.
Yes.
Legitimately since September. I mentioned Gingerdead Man in an episode a while ago.
Yep. Our ultimate, the AI episode.
The AI episode, yep. And I'm
yeah. So,
Markiplier is a listener. I'm just gonna...
I would love that. It'd be amazing.
That's canon now.
But yeah, so Gingerdead Man, for anybody who doesn't know still, like Kat said, it's a 2005 film by Full Moon Features. If you don't know Full Moon Features, it's a company owned by Charles Band, who's a well-known, super low-budget indie filmmaker. Started out with Empire Pictures and all these other 80s, 70s movies. Eventually, he had to kind of sell the rights, save certain companies, etc., etc. Look up Charles Band. His history is fascinating. But in the probably 90s, I would say, because I think Full Moon started around the time the first Puppet Master came out. He started a company called Full Moon Features, which specializes in these really, really micro-budget movies like Puppet Master.
Slap.
Yeah, that are still great. Slap. I mean, great in relative terms. This movie has some major flaws that I think a lot of Full Moon films kind of has.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's all the Puppet Master series. You've got the Gingerdead Man. You've got Evil Bong. You've got Demonic Dolls, Killjoy. Basically, they for a long time survived on those straight-to-video movies that you would see at Blockbuster. Just that
the $5 grab bin at Walmart. Let's go.
Right, exactly. That's how I got most of the Puppet Master films. It was 9 movies and 2 DVDs. The quality is total shit, but that's how I owned them all, and they are a blast. Even the worst ones have something, some sort of, if you're into film, I think there's something to be enjoyed by them, because again, Charles Band, Roger Corman, these are guys that are like, yes, they are filmmakers, but they're also businessmen. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that when it comes to the movie company, you know, movie environment, is that like sometimes it takes a really savvy business person to make like really interesting films, you know. Not always. Sometimes you just get really good artists, but you know, sometimes you get guys that are like, I'm just in it to make a buck, but let's make the most entertaining thing we can for as cheap as possible.
Henceforth, Evil Bong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But Kat, I know you're a pretty big fan of Full Moon, right?
I do really like the Full Moon. I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I loved the Puppet Master movies growing up. Like, love them. And my dad and I watched them together all the time. And I liked them so much that as a child, I'm thinking, cute dolls. So I was like, Dad, can I get some Puppet Master dolls? And my dad was going to do it. And my brother was terrified of these movies. And so my brother, like pulled my dad aside, and he was like, if you buy her those dolls, I will never. He's like, I will never take out the trash again, or whatever leverage a child has.
Right.
But so I watch those a lot. They get pretty weird, obviously, as with any series. You know what? I'm gonna have to keep like retconning my list of movies that I've seen like a full series of. And I've probably watched all the Puppet Masters. I don't remember them very well because as they get on, they're obviously less memorable. But I definitely sat through more of those than I think anyone should admit.
The problem with Full Moon, problem in relative terms, I would say the thing is, as even for a low budget company, they've continued to get lower and lower and lower budgets, and they've kind of fallen into that same market that Troma has, which is they're basically only catering to their audience because it's the only way they can really make revenue, because it's so much harder now. You know, back in the 80s and stuff, you could make a low budget film and like just release it to theaters. Now you can still do that, but it's so much more difficult to like jump through hoops and stuff to get your movie in theaters. That's why a film like Terrifier 2 is amazing, that it was like $250,000 to make that movie and it made like $15 million and somehow got released unrated. Like, that used to be something that never happened. And so now we're kind of seeing this weird resurgence of that sort of thing.
Which is good. I think we're all kind of tired of we're marveled to fucking death.
Yes. We need more movies that are like, even if they're not great, I would much rather go see an entertaining like Charles Band film in the theater or something than,
absolutely,
you know,
the same pre-programmed, like, all right, by page 15 this is gonna happen, and then by page 45 this is gonna, like, the way that the film industry is set up, and there is a reason for it. I mean, obviously you have story structure, but the way that the film industry is set up these days, where they're only going for stories that they know are going to make them money, and that's been happening recently. Like, Spielberg, I don't want to say predicted it, but he did say that there's going to be a bust in the film industry when we're going to get to a point where people are going to get tired of seeing the same structured shit, and now we have these blockbuster movies that are fucking flopping left, right, and center.
When you also don't see, the other thing too that people kind of forget is that you don't see the there's no polite way to say it. You don't see the rip-off movies anymore. Like, guys like Charles Band and Roger Corman and stuff, they came up and built an empire basically on, Jaws is really popular, let's make Piranha. Gremlins is really popular, let's make Ghoulies. And fucking Ghoulies 2 is a great movie. Like, I fucking love Ghoulies 2. And
then if you have Ghoulies, then you'd make Spookies to rip off of that. Like,
Spookies, oh god.
Spookies.
Talk about a movie, like, any movie where a Grim Reaper falls over a ledge and explodes is brilliant in my
We were
book.
watching the Found Footage Festival, and if you haven't heard of the Found Footage Festival, please look into them. They're fantastic. But they were talking about some of their favorite VHS tapes that they found at garage sales and estate sales. And one was like a home video, like VHS, you recorded stuff. And it was like random shit like RoboCop and then Spookies. And everyone's like, what the fuck is Spookies? I'm like, you never heard of Spookies? no one wants to see Ant-Man fucking 7. I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, it's the problem with Marvel is that, again, they're not like willing to really take a whole lot of risks, and that's kind of the movie companies in general.
I'm just kind of, I'm burnt out of the same shit, and I think that we need to take the risk on some weirdos a little more often now.
Yeah, agreed.
In my opinion.
But so to kind of circle us back to Full Moon, what happened was, again, they started doing more direct-to-video stuff, because in the 80s, mid 80s to 90s and stuff, the video market exploded, and a lot of these companies started finding that they could make more money by putting their movies in rental chains and stuff than they could putting them out in theaters anymore. And I would say that Troma tried that, but Troma is so just extreme. I don't even know how you describe Troma. They don't care. Lloyd Kaufman does not care about who he offends or anything like that. So a lot of films that are Troma favorites, people like The Toxic Avenger, you wouldn't see those in like a blockbuster. It was harder for them to get them in big chains. Not so with Full Moon Features, because I remember always seeing those shitty covers that they have. Oh, and I remember seeing the Gingerdead Man many times in Hollywood Video or Blockbuster things and being like, oh, okay, what is this? Why, or that, this isn't Full Moon, but that Jack Frost film, that, with the holographic cover where he looks scary and then he looks, so like, that type of shit was big in like the 90s, and then into the 2000s, I would say, and then it kind of like disappeared, and now it's all streaming, and a lot of these companies have their own streaming services to try and cater specifically to their audience. So a lot of these companies' budgets just get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, which is a shame.
It is.
I mean, I've seen the Full Moon guys at many a convention. Sometimes Charles Band is at the... I've never met him in person, but sometimes they're at the conventions.
I would love that.
Basically, the reason we say all of that is to kind of give you context of what Gingerdead Man is. This is a film that was made during that like VHS DVD boom. Like Kat said, it was like 2005. Apparently, its origins go all the way back to 2001 was when the first version of the script came out and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is a Charles Band classic in the sense that he rented a location for probably, I couldn't find an exact time, but my guess is maybe a week. They shot a film as quick as they humanly could.
Oh my God.
And got it done. And that was about it, because there are some highs in this movie and there are some extreme lows. But... Kat, do you want to kind of give us a quick synopsis for anybody wondering what Gingerdead Man is about?
Okay. Robin Sidney plays Sarah, who's our generic female main character, and her entire family, except for her mother, is murdered in their family diner by Millard Findelmeyer.
Yes, I was about to say... The best. I saw that name in the credits, the opening credits, and Gary Busey as Millard Findelmeyer and the Gingerdead Man, and I was like, what a brilliant
Gary
name.
Busey from such hits as Apocalypse 3 Tribulation. If you haven't seen it, don't.
I mean, so I guess maybe this is a good time to jump in. There was a time Gary Busey was not just a joke.
He was a fantastic actor, and he unfortunately had experienced an accident in his life.
Yeah.
But now we're not sure how much of it is legitimate brain damage and how much of it is him just being like a crazy man from Texas.
Well, it's so weird because he was already a weirdo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very blunt way to put it, but like Gary Busey has kind of had this reputation for being an oddball. Mm-hmm. And then he had the motorcycle accident. And that definitely caused some sort of damage. And then on top of that, you gotta wonder too, there's always been this thing in the back of my head, which is like, okay, how much of this is legitimately Gary Busey, and how much of this is like his Joaquin Phoenix, like playing a character, but people think I'm having a mental breakdown? Like, how much of this is truly Busey, and how much of this is like a 40-year just trolling con? Everybody, because he's so odd, And
Right.
there's clearly a lot going on, and he's had some major issues, which we're not going to get into here, but dude has had some problems.
Yeah.
But that being said,
He
there's-
plays a murderous gingerbread cookie. So
he's good in this movie.
he is.
He's
Actually is.
he's only in one scene as himself, but he's actually
Right,
really
the rest of the movie is him just shooting you one-liners and cackling, but he does a great cackle, and I'm not gonna hate the man for that. So
Yeah.
Gary Busey is in this film. He is fresh from screaming at traffic at your local street corner. He's right off the set of that. So Sarah is now working in a bakery with her mom. So her mom buys another business, and
her
they
Jack
start-
Daniels shotgun-toting bakery mother.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, okay, so speaking of, since the fact that this movie takes place in a bakery, as someone who works in a bakery, my notes from this, half of it's just shit about baking. It's like all the things, all my complaints
you
that
mean
they got
you
wrong.
mean when you cut your hand, you clearly don't sanitize.
No,
anything.
you just bleed right into the product. Always. What do you think the special seasoning is? Why do you think people keep coming back? And like, also, the thing that bothered me the most out of that scene, and this, you're gonna think less of me for this, and that's fine. But the problem that I truly have with this is that they're baking at night. And
That drove me crazy too. I
You
was like,
start
what
in the
bakery bakes overnight? No bakery does that. You bake early in the morning. To even I know that. I don't work
you
in a bakery.
proof overnight, but you don't,
Yes.
you don't, what are you doing? So that bugged the shit out of me. Then he starts bleeding into this,
I guess before we get into our nitpicking, we should probably describe the basics of the rest of the plot.
Yes, I'm so sorry. So I have ADHD, and this is what's happening.
You're totally fine.
She ends up getting a delivery of gingerbread spice. This gingerbread spice inevitably ends up in the gingerbread cookie mix, but it is magical gingerbread spice shit mixed with the blood that we had aforementioned getting dropped into it. This then creates the Franken gingerbread cookie man that is Gary Busey.
Yes.
Apparently Gary Busey's ashes are in that
yep.
spice, and so he comes back and he continues his revenge against Sarah.
Yeah, he basically, the movie's in a scene that is just like 90% exposition with things that make no sense. We see that Sarah was, after her family was killed, they testified against him. He was killed in the electric chair, but he vowed to come back and get them. Because of course, when there's a murderer after you, you keep those newspaper clippings in your bakery so you can reference them whenever
Well, where do you
want.
keep yours, Ryan?
Yeah, there's a nice little scrapbook that I have. It's like, but so that is going on. Gary Busey, I can think it was 2 years ago, Millard Findelmeyer was killed. Meanwhile, across the street from their bakery, by the way, did they say this movie takes place in Texas? Did I miss?
It's in Waco.
Okay, they do say that.
Because there's
I
a
was
quote in here that I will bring up later.
Because I must have missed that. Because I was like, why the fuck does everybody have Southern accents
Like
in this
this
movie?
deep Southern, yeah.
Other than the fact that they made a gingerbread man movie in the middle of the fucking summer. Because who cooks gingerbread? Okay.
In summer? Okay, that's the other beef I fucking have with this, right? Okay, so hello friends, hi. This movie has fuck all to do with Christmas.
No,
Christmas
it doesn't.
is not mentioned at all in this movie, and they're making gingerbread cookies.
Yep.
Why would you do that?
We literally picked this movie because it's about a gingerbread man, but it has nothing to do with the holidays, with
Krampus.
Christmas.
I put on my Krampus sweater. I'm gonna make this movie about Christmas, but it's not in there.
Yeah. So this big shot, like, rich Texas guy is opening a chain bakery across the street.
Yeah, his name is Jimmy Dean.
Are you serious?
Also known as Doug Dimmadome. He's played by Larry
does.
Cedar.
I was gonna say he looks like if Doug Dimmadome crossed with shit. What's that? What's the singer? The with the red hair. Oh God, what is his name?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran. If Ed Sheeran and Doug Dimmadome had a child.
Played by Larry Cedar from Star Trek Enterprise and Deep Space Nine.
Who was there for like a day because they clearly shot him. But there's a moment in this movie where he is referencing a car and they don't even film a cutaway to the car. They film him pulling up, and in the same shot he's just like, oh, so he's here, huh? And it's like you guys couldn't really have just panned the camera to get like a shot of the car for 10 seconds and then but anyway, oh, by the way, I have to point this out. God, we're all over the place. I'm sorry, people, but I have so many notes on this. And one of the notes I have, did you watch this on Tubi?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice that they clearly took a 480p 133 full screen ratio movie and cropped it to be 16:9, so the quality was like 240p. It was worst fucking quality I've ever seen, and I was like, I know they shot this on film, or at least why not just present it properly? Why is it cropped to fuck and it looks so bad?
Because fuck us. That's why. Because fuck us.
No, it's Tubi. It's free.
Yeah,
so,
we're in the plot now. This is what's happening. We're in it.
So anyway,
he pulls up, and he's gonna start this big bakery, and the mom is pissed. She's outside with her bottle of Jack Daniels, and she's shooting down the banner.
Sign.
Yeah, hit the banner for Jimmy Dean's Bakery, which I also was thinking that is not how guns work.
No, I had that thought too. I was like, who's just... And nobody says... When they come out, they're not like, oh my God, Mom, put the gun away or anything. They're just like, that's her.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know it's supposed to be Now I know it's supposed to be Texas. I assumed it was the
I
South
suppose that's
some
normal
sort.
Texas. Like, if it were us, we'd be like, Jesus Christ, woman. But Texas, you're like, oh, ma.
This movie is like, there are characters that are the equivalent of truck nuts in this movie. That's
Dude, fuck you. I literally have that note. I hate you. I pulled out my head. I think one character, Amos, I literally have him in my notes as truck nuts. How dare you?
Well, to wrap up, I guess, the plot synopsis, essentially, they bake a cookie, it's got the blood and the ashes of Gary Busey in it.
Yep.
He comes back to life as the Gingerdead Man, starts sort of killing people. There's no reason these people can't leave this bakery. That was one
Really,
of those
there
things
is
that
no
drove
reason.
me crazy. Until the very end, they say something about booby traps. But through most of the film, they walk in and out of the bakery and then just decide to come back in. And it was because Charles Band was like, fuck, we only have one location. We're filming here.
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Sarah couldn't find her mom, and so she wanted to make sure her mom got out. But also, they did kind of know where the mom was.
Yeah.
She got her finger cut off at some point by
the only like majorly, not even majorly violent, but I would say probably the best effect in the movie is that finger being cut off. It's not even great, but it's like the rest of the deaths are either dumb, non-existent, or just like they're kind of poorly edited. Some of them. Again, we say this with all the love in the world.
We do.
Because as two people who study film, and the goal is, for us to like make low budget stuff and have a good time and everything, like I totally respect what Charles Band did and does for his films. Because if somebody gave me, some money and was like, here, go shoot a movie in 7 days, I'd be pulling the same tricks. Like, oh shit, we need to hit a guy with a car, but we can't damage this car. So I guess let's quickly just film it like the camera is the car, and then we'll just
I would
put him
steal a hot dog from craft services and put a ring on it, and that's my fake finger.
Right, exactly. So we say this with all the respect in the world, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna have fun.
We're
and
gonna riff it. Fuck yeah.
The hell out of this movie. So I guess let's just get into it. Let's get into some of our notes. That's the basic plot of Gingerdead Man. I recommend watching it. I will say the problem with this movie is that it's the same problem that a lot of full moon features around this time have. There is not enough going on in the movie to warrant the runtime. The movie's only 70 minutes. The end credits are 10 minutes long. I checked. They're literally
milked
10 minutes. It moves so slow. So that means there's an hour. And then there's also an intro, like, credit sequence. And that is, like, maybe, like, 2, maybe 3 minutes if they're really pushing it. So you're maybe looking at, like, 55 minutes of content here. And
Though it is important to pay attention to the credits, because one of the credits was for the production designer, and his name is Elvis Strange.
I saw that. Yes.
This is why you read the credits.
Full Moon Features are full of fake names, and I'll get to that because I think there is one in here. Because people often don't work union on movies like this.
Yeah.
So the way to get around that is a lot of filmmakers will then use fake names, or they're really embarrassed about working on a movie and they'll use a fake name, which happens too. But this is a movie where, even though it's only really like 55 minutes of real content, the middle section drags. It's really bad. Not enough is happening.
This movie... So here's like my note on how much time is spent on things. This movie is 30% of Gary Busey laying down those one-liners and cackling, 10% Texas accents, 10% death, 50% cuddling and whispering in a corner.
Pretty much.
That's what this movie is.
Yep, pretty much.
So
so film was directed by Charles Band. It was I didn't write. Did you write down the writers? Because I think Charles Band was one of the writers on here. I don't remember, but from what I understand was that the original script was written like 2001. They didn't make the movie till like 2004, 2005, whenever, because it came out in 2005, and they kind of like rewrote it and stuff. So who knows how much of that is the original script? But the one thing that I found fascinating. The music, I'm very familiar with the music of, I believe it's Richard Band. Richard Band is Charles Band's brother. And his music very distinct. You can hear his music. But the music is credited to someone named Roger Bollinger. And I was like, that sounds like a Richard Band score, not a Roger Bollinger. I don't know who Roger Bollinger is. So I looked him up. The only scores he is credited on IMDb are this movie, a like compilation with clips from this movie, and then one other thing. If you go to the Wikipedia article for this movie and you click on Roger Bollinger, it takes you to a political figure who I think died. So something tells me Roger Bollinger is not a real person. I think it's just Richard Band using a fake name.
Hear me out. Texas has a representative who's into that trash, you know what I mean?
And he likes making music. I mean, it honestly, who it could be, in all honesty, might be Charles Band. Because the end credits song, that like weird like Creed meets Phil Collins song that plays over the 10 minutes of credits, it's called I Can't Help This. It's written by Charles Band. So the music might have just been Charles Band using a pseudonym.
We've already kind of gotten into it, but let's get into this.
Let's go piece by piece. I mean, there's really only like 5 scenes total in the movie. So
what a fucking opening. This movie opens at this diner, and it's not like you don't get a cold, like a soft opening where, you know, you kind of get a little bit of the day-to-day, like, oh, they're helping customers and everything. No. The film starts with Gary Busey stepping onto the screen and just shooting people. Yeah.
And it's the best scene in the movie. It really is. Even though this is a movie with a killer gingerbread man in it, which is great. The best scene is this opening scene. I mean, he's just, I don't know if they let him improvise. I do know that
I fucking hope so.
He was offered $25,000 for the role. Charles Band offered him that and assumed Gary Busey wouldn't take it, and Gary Busey was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, and then showed up, did what he needed to do, and there are lines in this where I'm like, they must have let him improvise. They did not write that. There's a line, I wrote this down, where he keeps saying, like, the brother character keeps saying something like, you don't have to do this, when he's got the gun pointed at him. Yeah, I was gonna say, did you write down the same one where he goes, now you're sounding like my high school principal. It's like, I was like, that is not a written line. There's no way that's a written line.
Gary Busey is the only actor in Hollywood you can pay in boiled peanuts, and I love that for him.
That's pretty much what it seems like. Yeah.
He when he like goes to shoot Sarah, because obviously he's like, my mom always told me I have to finish everything I start, and so he's gonna kill Sarah, but he's like, I can't do it. So he does, like, he's pointing the gun, he goes, he pulls the trigger, and he like winces, and then he shoots, and he misses. And he does. I don't know. I think he just does. He like rage quit?
Sirens start playing in the background.
Oh yeah, that's right. Then the police show up.
The police show up, which you never see because they didn't have the money.
They can't afford the uniforms.
So they cut to the credits. Obviously, he gets arrested. We find out through a scene, like I said, that is just written full of exposition. Sarah's filling in the audience about her brother and everything, and
she's like looking at photos on the
all the newspaper clippings and everything, and it's like, okay, great, exposition, pretty clunkily done. And then a person in a cloak shows up, which, by the way,
industry tip, like, as an industry person who works in a bakery, that is how things are delivered. They come in the dark of night in a cloak, and they just drop it at the back door.
It's not even nighttime yet. It's middle of the afternoon. It's still day.
No, honestly, the delivery guys at my job scare the shit out of me all the time, because it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we suddenly hear like, "Excuse me, miss," and we're all just like, ah! Like, you don't know there's a dude behind you, but it's always just, yeah. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. That's
middle of the day. Yeah.
Somebody with a cloak drops off gingerbread spices, etc., etc., etc. It's a handwritten thing that says, like, grandma's gingerbread spices or something like that on there.
Which any professional bakery would not accept that delivery without an invoice or, like, what the fuck? But okay.
So then we have a scene where you said her name. I didn't write down any other than Amos. I didn't write down any character names because I didn't know who the fuck anybody was in this movie.
So Sarah's then talking to Brick, and I think we should start a new...
Oh, is it Brick? I did write down Rick, but his name is Brick.
Brick, which is the most Texan name ever.
Yeah.
I think we need to start a new thing where we talk about Kat's movie boyfriend. Like, every movie I pick the one is like, oh, him. I like that one. Brick is my favorite. Like...
He's you know who he reminds me. This movie actually wrote a lot of comparisons to this, oddly enough. He reminds me of Kenneth in fucking Crybaby Lane.
Oh my god. He's nice. Brick is nice. He's a himbo.
That's what I was gonna say. Kenneth is the
he is. Oh my god.
Yeah, Undertaker's nephew. Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the older brother.
No, Carl is another character. I wrote down a character that's just like Carl in this.
I like him big and dumb. I guess that's where I'm at.
But I guess he is kind of a blend of Carl, right? Because he keeps talking about wrestling.
He does.
Brick keeps being like talking about some wrestling match, and he keeps quoting this guy.
Yeah, they're gonna let in new, like, amateur wrestlers, right? So he's gonna introduce his character, the Butcher Baker, right out of Hell's Kitchen, and I'm like,
that's
yeah,
right,
because Hell's Kitchen has a Texan accent. But all right.
By the way, this scene also has maybe one of my other favorite lines in the movie, which is when Sarah's talking about the death of her brother, and she goes, "Today would have been his birthday. He wanted to spend it at a titty bar." I was like, yeah, that's a really way to, get your audience to sympathize with your dead brothers. Talk about him wanting to go look at strippers.
I love that she knows her brother so well.
I think she even says when she's like looking at a photo of him, she goes like, "Happy birthday, brother. It would have been your 21st. Hopefully they have strippers in heaven." I was like, your brother sounds like he had a problem. Like,
this movie is so Texas. I love it. Brick is trying to get her to come to this amateur wrestling night to, like, see his debut. And he says, it's going to have everything. A tag team, a body damage, a body slammage, which is a fantastic line. But fantastic. And I just really, really, really want her to go on a date with this very weird man.
Well, he leaves.
He does.
There are characters that just... This movie is shot... Clearly, it was like, oh, we only have this actor for 2 days. Great, we wrote you out. Because there are scenes where characters just show up again for no reason whatsoever. Yep. We then cut to the scene with the mom, as we've discussed, firing the shotgun at the sign.
Yep.
All that jazz. And then they take the mom away. The other employee, what is her name?
Fuck if I know.
Yeah,
she literally is in the movie for like 10 seconds. Here, let me.
Yeah, she's in there. She's
Lorna. Her name's Lorna. No, that's a different character. I thought her name was Laura. Well, fuck me. I think it's Julia.
It might be Julia. It really doesn't matter.
Julia.
She's basically there to give some exposition, to take the mom away. She shows up later and gets one of the weirdest non-deaths I've seen in a movie. We'll get there. Cause, so anyway.
Notes on this, though. They're not doing any measuring at all. Like,
no.
Sarah's baking and Laura's decorating. First off, the way that bitch is holding that piping bag. Okay, first off, what the fuck are you doing? She's piping. Okay, she's piping from up here. I'm like, you're gonna get carpal tunnel, you goofy bitch. She's got this massive piping bag, and she's just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing in this bakery.
I gotta roll up my sleeves. I'm so mad.
Yeah, it's very clearly like people who have not only never set foot in a bakery, who have never baked in their life.
Never.
Because the shit that happens in this movie is like... Oh, which I think we also kind of glossed over the fact that, Brick cuts his hand.
Yes.
With like a knife. Blood drips into the dough. Mm-hmm. And it's like... It's not like in Hellraiser. When... In Hellraiser, what's his name? It's gonna escape my brain, but the dad in Hellraiser. You remember he scrapes his hand on the nail, and it's like a few drops of blood, and it looks very like it's very detailed.
Slow.
No, this is like a man who sliced his whole hand open, and blood is running down his arm, and he's like, "It's fine," and it's like
he's just watching it like
all over in the dough. It's like, no, this is so unsanitary. You would then have to throw all that out, sanitize everything. You wouldn't just like...
You wouldn't keep going. You would not keep going. But then he goes, Butcher Baker needs no doctor. He can take the hate. And I just, again, it's just...
This man clearly doesn't understand that wrestling isn't real.
Yeah, obviously. Fucking shit.
So anyway, the mom fires the shotgun. She leaves, and then like a sitcom... The Jimmy Dean and his daughter, is that Lorna?
Lorna.
Yeah, show up. And they start like harassing the character. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's basically they're like, I thought we were going to act like proper business people, blah, 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 blah. So they leave. Again, we're not going to go into super details about the plot here, people. We're going to talk about the crazy bullshit in this movie, but like
plot.
There's no plot. It's a lot of like exposition shit that you don't need. If you really want to go watch Gingerdead Man, watch it. If you really want the plot details. But so anyway,
is this when Sarah's making the actual gingerbread man?
I was about to say, and she has the biggest fucking gingerbread man cookie cutter I've ever seen. It's like 3 feet long.
Was this a custom order for just one fucking gingerbread man?
I don't know.
The fuck?
It's like it makes, and to be fair, obviously the only reason they did that is because it was to make the puppet big enough, right?
Yeah.
So because I believe John Carl Buechler did the effects, who's a pretty well-known effects artist. And I will give him credit. I know some people are like, ooh, the puppet looks cheesy. I actually think the Gingerdead Man puppet looks pretty good. I like it. I like the way it looks. It's like the right balance of like fun and cheesy and just kind of like perfect for this kind of movie. But when I was like looking at that, I was like, this makes, you know how expensive that fucking Gingerbread Man cookie would be? It'd be like $20 for a cookie that
one fucking cookie. Dude, I would charge more than that for that. Holy shit. You gotta go make cookie dough, get magical fucking spices, bleed into it, and bake it. Fuck. And
also, like, I like how instead of decorating it with frosting later, and icing, she puts like a berry gummy bow tie and like dots, and then like just pokes it in the eye. It's like, why? That's not how you would do that, typically.
I I I felt like that meme of Michael Jordan just crying, just like watching this girl make this fucking cookie. I was so upset. And also was when the dough was mixing. Totally forgot to mention this. Do you remember when the dough is mixing and the little hand comes up?
Clearly like a doll hand that they bought and just kind of stuck in the dough to make. Also, like, it's very clear that there's blood in that dough. Like, because there's... It's constantly, like, red running through it. And it's like
that dough is so watery. Like, first off, you didn't add enough flour, and you need to let it chill for at least 8 hours, because it's gingerbread, baby.
They didn't have time. They're just like, put some fucking flour together. Great, that's our dough. Like, we don't have time.
This movie is shitty Chucky. That's what this fucking movie is. Shitty Chucky.
So anyway, after that, obviously, Gingerdead Man starts baking. Lorna shows up again to sabotage their bakery. She just randomly shows up and somehow gets in the bakery and is just like...
She drops off a rat.
Yeah, she lets a rat loose. And then they have what is clearly not a choreographed fight. It was probably Charles Band just going, now you two fight. And then it's like...
Like, it was a mix of food fight and, like, that awkward slapping that children do.
Yeah, it's that, like, weird hugging thing that people do, like, in high school when people get in fights, but it's not really, like, a fight. They just kind of, like,
grab each other and they sway back and forth and they just really want to put on Careless Whisper.
Yep, and then they just took little pieces of, like, bread rolls, and just start tossing them at each other. Then... unannounced, for no reason whatsoever, we haven't seen him before, there's never been reference to him, Amos shows up. Who is basically
your older brother's even older friend who taught you how to smoke weed out of an apple. Yes. That's who he fucking is.
He's got shorts on, he's got that mid-2000s pocket chain, he's got one eyebrow, like, very poorly pierced.
Spiked hair.
Yeah, spiked hair. He is just... And again, I was like...
His shirt says, "Pull my finger."
Yeah, I was like, who the hell is this? Like, this guy just randomly he just walks into the scene. Like framing like a sitcom. Like, he has no entrance. We're not established. He just shows up. And we only learn who he is as the movie goes on. You know, give us any clue as to who this is, other than, like... Oh, I told you to wait in the car or something like that. I think Lorna says something of that nature. But it's like, okay, who... We haven't said anything about this guy. We have no idea. We learn later that him and Sarah have like a history that the dude doesn't even fucking remember. He's probably destroyed his brain with like peyote or something.
And it was from like when they were children too. So this was like many, many years ago. Yeah. And she's like reminiscing about a
she's like, don't you remember at my 6-year-old birthday party, you tried to kiss me and I punched you in the nose?
And he was like,
oh yeah, I do remember that. But it takes him like 5 minutes to remember any element of this.
Like, you smelled smoke every time he was thinking. Yeah, at this point, Gingerdead Man he's up, he's active, he's being a little shit.
This is when he shows up, because they when they get in the fight, they hit like the electrical box, right? And it causes like electricity to shoot in and like bring the ginger dead, which makes no sense, because if the dough was already mixed with his magic blood powder, then why did we also need electricity to bring him to life? That's too many things. Too many things, movie. You only need like one magical element. In Chucky, it's voodoo. In, Frankenstein, it's lightning. You don't need like 5 things to bring Gingerdead Man to life, all right?
And then just in case, they dipped him in a vat of radioactive sludge,
Pretty much. He comes to life, he starts terrorizing everybody. That's when we get the line, well, it sure ain't the Pillsbury fucking doughboy, which is a great line,
beautiful.
Admittedly. The mom this is the point in the movie, people. Again, we're going to be jumping around. This is the point where people just start having conversations, leaving, and then coming back in. And then other characters show up and leave and come back in. But everybody has to be there because they only had one location to film at. And
this bakery is Grand Central Station.
Yes, exactly. So it's a movie where like people just come, and look, I'm all for like single location filmmaking. I think that's smart. But you have to figure out a reason why your characters can't leave. If you don't set that up, and especially since people enter and exit. At one point, Amos leaves to go get a gun out of his car and then just comes back in. And it's like, if you could leave, you don't even need the gun. Just leave the bakery. Like, you can get away from him by just leaving.
I thought about that so many times. So many times.
But at one point, the mom shows back up to find her hidden stash of another, like, giant bottle of Jack Daniels, which is, like, hidden behind some, like, pans up top. And she sees the rat. And that's when she gets her finger cut off by the Gingerdead Man. And he says something like, "You ever had a lady finger?" Or something like that. Like another Baking Bad pun. Another cookie pun.
Baking Bad.
They made a Gingerdead movie.
I am the one who bakes.
Yeah. You know he'd be saying that. God, it all starts to bleed together.
So I just had a scathingly brilliant idea. What if we remade this movie with Bryan Cranston as the Gingerdead Man?
Oh God, that'd be amazing.
It'd be fantastic.
I would love to see it.
I don't want a 3-foot cookie. I want Bryan Cranston dressed up like a fucking cookie.
Yes.
I want him to be small, like gingerbread man size. But it's not a puppet. It's just fucking Bryan Cranston.
Look, if they can remake The Toxic Avenger as a big budget movie coming out now, they could remake Gingerdead Man with Bryan Cranston.
So Laura immediately is like, "It's black magic," and she's like, everyone's freaking out. And
which she tells a story, I don't mean to interrupt, but she tells a story of a Ouija board that goes nowhere and has nothing to do. It's like 5 minutes and we don't need it in the movie. It's literally just filler again.
And fucking Truck Nuts is like, he's like, "You got all that from a Ouija board? That's longer than any book you've ever read." And also Gingerdead Man is eating baked products, and I'm like, this bitch is snacking. And like, is this cannibalism? What is this?
And he's like throwing milk for no reason, and then he seems to leave a room that seemingly has no exit. It's like a freezer, so how he gets out of there I don't know, but
I think they let him out by accident because fucking the human equivalent of a pissing Calvin bumper sticker is gonna shoot the cookie.
So yeah, around this time is the same scenes where like we get the backstory of Amos and Sarah that has nothing to do and is just filler. Oh, I wrote cheaply but smart film death of the father with the car, because at one point Lorna calls her dad and is like, and I will say that I give them credit for her being like, she calls her dad, be like, "We're being chased by a fucking cookie," or whatever she says.
Yeah.
And then the battery on the phone dies, and then Sarah says, "Why didn't you call the police instead of your dad?" And then, like, they kind of just brush it off, but I was like, well, at least the movie has enough wherewithal to be like, you know, we know that you probably should have called that person. But anyway, the dad shows up, and basically Gingerdead Man gets in his car and, like, smashes him into a wall. They didn't even bother putting some fake blood in his... I'm wondering, I'm like, was this Charles Band's car? Was he like, "Don't get any blood on my car," or something? Because, like, why... You couldn't even... When you run him into a wall...
Yeah.
When we don't even see it, it's like shot from the car's perspective of some camera guy just, like, running up on him, and then the car, like, slowly approaching that they filmed. It's, you know, for a budget, it's well done. But we don't even see the official death. When we come back, he's just slumped over the hood of the car. Yeah, just like... And there's no blood on the walls. There's no blood
also,
coming
when
out of
he's
his
getting
mouth.
ran over, he's just shouting, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
If I'm about to get fucking run over, I'm not going to say, "Who are you?" I'm not going to be asking questions. I'm going to be like, "Please don't." Like,
right. Exactly.
Maybe don't do that.
So that happens. And then they find so at one point, the other girl that we can't remember her name,
Julia,
shows up to help the mom. And then she gets hit with like a frying pan. And then she has the worst death in the movie, because it's not even a death. She gets hit with the frying pan. They find her later in the freezer covered in whipped cream with cherries on her nipples. And I was like, why is this?
Why?
But she's not even dead.
Nope.
She then shows up later to attack the Gingerdead Man at the like end I guess end-ish area of the movie.
Like you think she's not gonna make it or she's gonna be, but then she comes in.
And there's clearly like they filmed that scene long before because there's no whipped cream. There's like a smidgen of like whipped cream on her just to be like, remember she had whipped cream on her, but it's like they didn't. They clearly were like, oh, we're not gonna take the time to cover her in whipped cream again or whatever. So they clearly filmed that scene last. So stupid. We get to the point where the Lorna is killed apparently by the worst edited booby trap of all time. It's so poorly edited. It's very clearly like I don't even know how you edit a death in this movie this badly. Like she gets cut by the Gingerdead Man.
And it's just like a smear of red on her cheek.
Yeah, they don't even add any like latex or anything to like, or scar wax or anything to even
How
make,
about a facelift, sweetheart?
Yeah. And he cuts her and there's like fake blood. And then apparently she hits like a wire or something and like they do this really bad cut and the knife, like there's like a knife sticking out of
it
her
is
head.
the best death in the movie because it's probably the only real death in the movie.
Yeah, but it's not well edited. Like there's a very easy way to do that with a whip pan that would have taken no extra time, which is rig a fake knife up with some fishing wire so we see it, drop it, and then just whip pan down, and then all you do is you film a second whip pan down to her head with the knife already in it, and then you just splice in the middle of that whip pan, and it looks like the knife fell on her. That's a super easy effect, and they couldn't even get the editing.
Couldn't even do that
right on it. I was like, man.
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit more about Lorna. Did you notice that she got over the death of her father lightning quick?
Yes, I forgot they leave for like the fourth time and discover the dad.
Yeah, and that's why they can't leave the building because he's outside, but like he's also inside. What the fuck? And she sees her dad. She's like, ugh. Oh, and she takes his ring off his finger.
Yeah, and is like, sorry, daddy, or something. And I was like, what? Okay, like
she's
why?
Just over it.
Great. So they kill her. The Gingerdead Man gets Amos's gun at this point, I believe, and starts firing at them. And that is when the other girl hits him, I believe, and then Brick, like a sitcom, just jumps into frame out of nowhere, and he basically, he shows up first, I guess, and then she hits Gingerdead Man with the frying pan, and then Rick's holding him down, and he's like, Gingerdead Man's like, eat me, and he's like, all right, and so he like eats his head, and there's like goo coming out of him.
I just forgot that I had Julia in my notes under whip tits.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the scene in the movie where you're like, why? Why is this in here? Anyway,
Butcher Baker's taking a bite out of crime, and it's like blood and gore and stuff, and then he just goes, got milk.
It's the grossest scene in the movie.
It is
like,
absolutely gross.
There's something about it that's just like the way he's eating him, and I'm like, I can't tell if that was their intention or not. It must have been, right? But like, it just comes off as like almost stomach turning. Like it's just kind of grotesque, but not, I don't feel like in the way they intended. More just like the way you're eating this is you got weird squishy mouth noises, and it's just, this is just the worst.
Yeah.
So anyway, that happens. Everyone thinks it's over, but oh no.
Butcher Baker gets a tummy ache just like me after eating literally anything. And then
he gets possessed.
Possessed by fucking Gary Busey. Gary Busey, who at one point in time in this movie, in the form of a puppet, got into an argument with a rat.
Oh, I forgot about that scene.
Just another day for Gary. I mean, so now this guy, this actor playing Brick, now has to play himself as being possessed by Gary Busey,
right.
Which is probably the hardest thing you could possibly be asked to do as an actor. And he gets into a fight with chain wallet, which I don't know why his wallet's chained to him. The only thing he's got in there is an HEB membership card. Let's be real. He ain't got no money. But...
Yeah, he's like, he's Korn super fan. Amos. And he's just,
He's having his GTA moment where he's,
he's
fighting as best as he can.
He's got a Puddle of Mud concert to go to. And
he's got to go get back to the parking lot of Circle K and sell some weed to high schoolers. Like, he's got things to do.
The movie reaches its finale. I mean, there's like a epilogue, a denouement type thing afterward. Yeah. But like it reaches the point where the way that they solve this problem is by murdering Brick. They put him in the oven and burn him alive. And they basically are like, the only way the movie gets over it is they go, poor Brick. And then somebody goes, yeah, but it wasn't him anymore. It's like, but you don't know that. It's like, yeah, he was possessed by this guy, but how do you know you didn't just murder this other guy in your bakery? Nobody's going to question that. Nobody's going to be like, who isn't going to be like, you burnt a corpse alive. That is, not only are you going to jail, you're also the food inspectors, the health inspector is going to come in and really have a problem with this.
It's like that episode of SpongeBob where they kill the health inspector and they're trying to cover it up.
That should have been Gingerdead Man too.
Yes.
The murder of the health inspector.
Fuck yeah. I forgot to say, the reason why I know this takes place in Waco is when Lorna gets her face cut. She says, "I am Miss Pretty Face of Waco." And I've been thinking about it a lot. So I've been thinking about it actually since she said it. And now they're having this big bake sale the next day. They did not mention anything about this bake sale.
Nope.
Again, still no reference to Christmas. This is just some bake sale raising funds for the community of Waco.
It's a bake sale that has like nurses and like weird random people, and they're all there. And
a little boy goes, "Do you got gingerbread man?"
And I was like, kid, it is like July.
Fucking July.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And she goes,
like,
no. I hope not. And then one of the nurses randomly goes, "Oh, somebody dropped this off earlier." And of course they open it up and it's actual size gingerbread men, properly, and they suddenly their eyes change with a really bad dissolve and they have like googly eyes.
Yeah, that's their scare. That's their like, oh, he's not dead. It's fucking googly eyes.
And then 10 minutes of credits happen.
Jesus
That's
Gingerdead Man.
That's Gingerdead Man. I'm not mad we watched it. No. It's like I said, I always respect, even full moon movies I don't like. Like, there are quite a few that I've seen that I'm like, this isn't for me. But I always respect Charles Band for just knowing what his audience wants and just being like, great, we're going to make this, and making him cheap. I mean, $25,000 to Gary Busey does not seem like cheap by today's standards. But the thing about that, too, I mean, you had guys like, for a long time working with Charles Band who were like fantastic filmmakers, like Stuart Gordon, who would go on to make movies like Dolls or Castle Freak, or like these movies. Because Charles Band used to do stuff where they'd have posters already made. Like, this is our next project. And it was the way that they would build revenues by selling them to like foreign markets and stuff with a poster. The movie hadn't even been made, but they had a title and a poster. And it'd be like, that was how Castle Freak was sold. It was like, they sold it, Stuart Gordon came in and went, "What's that?" And Charles Band basically went, "I don't know, you want to make it? It just has to be called Castle Freak, and it needs a castle and a lady like this in it." And he goes, "Great." And they made it. And he made another like H.P. Lovecraft style movie, like, his like third one of From Beyond and Reanimator and stuff. So like Charles Band and guys like him, like Roger Corman and things, like we said at the beginning, huge respect for those guys. You can learn so much from guys like that. If you want to study filmmaking, like,
truly watch them.
Yeah, watch your favorite filmmakers, of course, but study those guys too, because you'll learn so much by doing that. This movie obviously has a following because they made 2 additional ones, which I haven't seen, and
Yes.
in crossovers with the Evil Bong. I think there's 4 movies total for Gingerdead Man. I think there's like 8 Evil Bong movies. So you've got Gingerdead Man, you got Gingerdead Man 2, The Passion of the Crust, I believe it's called.
Oh my god, yeah. I did make a Jesus crust joke when I was watching this. Can't help
And
it.
then you have, it's so weird. There's a third one that I believe is called Saturday Night Cleaver. But then if you go to Tubi, it's called something else. I don't know if there's like different versions of it or something. It's weird. But then there's Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong, and then I think it's Gingerdead Man.
Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver.
Yeah, here it is. So the image, it's called Saturday Night Cleaver, but the image of it, if you look at the cover, it says Gingerdead Man 3 Roller Boogie Man. So I have no idea. And same with Gingerbread Man 2. It says Gingerdead Man 2 Bakery of Blood. So I don't know if these are like alternate titles or what's up with that. But
Maybe
Kat,
it's like
what
a
did we
working
learn here
title
today?
and then they changed their minds. I don't know. I still haven't. I watched Saw 4. I made it as far as 4. I haven't gone any further yet. But I was like, I don't know if I mentioned this before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. But I'm like, I'm watching the Saw movie, blah blah. And my friend Stella goes like, "There's other movies you can watch." I'm like, "Girl, I've seen them." And she goes like, "Oh yeah, have you seen Evil Bong?" And I was like, "Yes, I've seen it." Like, not the one.
Yeah,
These movies, they're so much fun, and at the very least, if you watch it and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't very good," but you know what? You know what you didn't see? Fucking Avengers 3 or some shit. Like
you have not seen a movie like Gingerdead Man. That
you
is
have
for
not
sure.
seen a movie like Gingerdead.
And
Yeah,
also,
for
like I
sure.
said, if you watch it, you fast forward through those like 2 minutes, if you wanted to, of the intro, credits. If you wanted to, I don't
Definitely
think you
watch
need to.
the opening scene though with Gary Busey, because you
Yeah.
will be so in the weeds.
Yeah, and then you skip the end credits. You're looking at like 55 minutes.
Yeah.
There are worse ways to spend 55 minutes. You know what I mean?
Come
like,
on.
enjoy it. Have a good
55
time.
minutes, you're not on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking
Yeah,
of which,
and-
follow us on TikTok.
Yes. Follow us on TikTok at Twice the Terror. Definitely check us out there. But
I work hard at making those at 9 o'clock at night when I'm lying in bed.
yes, exactly. Kat runs our social media. I do all the editing and stuff. So
Brian does the real stuff. I make dick jokes online. I don't really do anything.
But anyway, I think here's what I will say for the end of our holiday episode this year.
Yeah.
For everyone out there who's an aspiring filmmaker, do yourself a favor. Watch a full moon movie. Go watch a Gingerdead Man. Go watch an Evil Bong. Go watch a Puppet Master. Even if you hate it, you'll learn a lot. You'll either learn what not to do, or you'll learn what to do with no money. There are so many tricks of the trade that you can learn from films like this. And if you can set your mind to it and you want to go do it, do it. Guys like Charles Band paved the way. So show them a little respect. And maybe, during your Christmas party when Mima's a little tipsy from the eggnog and Uncle Jimmy John's.
Watching Gingerdead Man.
Yeah, the kids are asleep and whatever. You can put on Gingerdead Man, have a good laugh,
Hell
and
yeah.
just have a good night. But
Look at
I
the
think-
filmmakers that inspire you, and then figure out who inspired those filmmakers. And oftentimes, you're gonna hear these names.
yeah, it's true. 100%. You've got a lot of fantastic filmmakers out there. Look at interviews with these guys. Listen to them, study them. You're gonna learn a lot. But Kat, I think is there anything you want to add for Gingerdead Man?
No, as Miss Pretty Face of there is a movie, a local movie called Jagoff Massacre, that has a great line in it where someone goes, "I was voted Miss Blonde Ox 3 years in a row." And I think that's why I find that line so funny, is because I think about that every time.
Yeah.
I think I think we've said all that can be said about Gingerdead Man.
I agree.
I think if we say Gary Busey's name any more times, he might actually manifest like Bloody Mary.
It's true.
And start demanding popcorn or something really weird.
You guys got any of that kettle corn?
So, on behalf of
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, one very confused puppeteer, and the poor Pillsbury Doughboy, the Texas Department of Health, and OSHA. Thank you so much for listening to this nonsense. We hope that you will come back next time to hear more nonsense from us. What's our next episode going to be, Ryan?
Well, Kat, our next episode is our season finale. I can't believe it's here. And we're going to do something that may come off as a little egotistical, but fuck it, we don't care. We're going to review our favorite moments and episodes from the first season of Twice the Terror.
Our favorite moments where we made ourselves laugh.
It's true. It's very much a snake eating its own tail at that point, but who cares? We're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
So enjoy that, and there will be details in that episode for what will happen, after the season's over, but we got one more, folks. Stick around for that, and until next time, everyone.
Next time.
Bye.
Bye.